All right, let's just bypass the theory today and dive right into the hot seat, shall we? We're looking at your very first session with a new client. And let's be honest, those first few minutes, they are entirely make or break. So in this explainer, we're going to map out exactly how to open a conversation in a way that actually builds trust. We're going to do this by running through 3 highly specific real-world scenarios.
So, let's set the stage for scenario number 1. Imagine your client walks into the room, sits down, immediately crosses their arms, and just hits you with this challenging opening line. My probation officer said I had to come. They're mandated, they absolutely do not want to be there.
Now here is exactly the wrong way to respond. The counselor goes, okay, how long have you been drinking? The client gives a super guarded, a while. Then the counselor just pushes right on, how much per week? Client responds, not that much. Counselor fires back, using anything else?
And the result? The client just shrugs. It's a complete shutdown. So the crucial point we have to ask is, what exactly went wrong here? Well, the counselor completely ignored the client's blatant reluctance and just started firing off rapid assessment questions. They tried to extract data from someone who hasn't even agreed to mentally be in the room yet. And you know what that does? It creates an immediate impenetrable wall. Okay, let's rewind and look at the right way to handle this exact same opening. The client says, my probation officer said I had to come. And the counselor simply replies, so this wasn't your idea? The client, suddenly feeling heard, drops their shield just a fraction and says, no. Notice what happened? You were simply acknowledging their forced reality out loud. You aren't judging it, and you definitely aren't ignoring it. And then you follow it up with this gem. The counselor says, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'd rather hear your side than assume. The client says, okay. And the counselor asks, what would feel okay to start with? This brilliantly shows how completely dropping your agenda shifts the whole dynamic. You're basically handing them the steering wheel, right? You've gone from being an interrogator to a collaborator in seconds. The contrast here is pretty stark. On one side, we have an interrogative dead end. The counselor is relentlessly chasing facts, but completely losing the person sitting in front of them. On the other side, we have trusting alignment. By addressing the massive elephant in the room, the fact that they literally don't want to be there, you instantly diffuse the tension. Let's move to our second scenario and see how this builds. This time, a client arrives completely defensive. They sit down and immediately declare, my wife thinks I have a problem. I don't agree. They are literally drawing a line in the sand before you have even introduced yourself. Once again, let's look at the wrong response. The counselor asks, how much do you drink? The client replies, a few beers, nothing crazy. Then the counselor says, do you think that's a problem? You see it, right? The counselor is instantly investigating their habits and openly questioning their judgment. They're taking the bait and acting exactly like the spouse the client is arguing with at home.
And unsurprisingly, the client instantly becomes defensive. Pushing against their denial acts as a massive wedge. If you push them, their only logical option is to push back to protect themselves. You've basically lost the therapeutic alliance in under 30 seconds.
Let's rewind and do this right. Client, my wife thinks I have a problem. I don't agree. Counselor? So you're here for something you're not sure is even a problem. Client? It does feel strange. Look at that incredible shift. You calmly validate the highly pressured, awkward position they've been put in. You aren't necessarily agreeing that they don't have a problem, but you are completely accepting their current perspective. Then the counselor follows up with, I'm not going to convince you of anything. What's your sense of what's been going on? And the client opens up, work has been a lot, more than usual. Notice how taking the pressure off, explicitly removing that threat that you are going to persuade them, opens the door. Suddenly they aren't aggressively defending their drinking. They're actually talking about the real stressors in their life. So the crucial takeaway here is comparing the intense friction of pushing back versus the actual momentum of rolling with their reluctance. By not fighting their denial head-on, you actually bypass it entirely. It's almost like a therapeutic magic trick. Let's move to our final and honestly, perhaps most difficult scenario. You are sitting across from a deeply skeptical client who feels they've failed before or the system has totally failed them. Their opening line is, I've been to counseling before. It didn't help. The absolute wrong instinct here, which, let's be real, is so common because we all just want to be helpful, is to defend the process. The counselor says, this is different. Research shows counseling is very effective. And the client just says, sure, with all the sarcasm and detachment in the world. Ask yourself, why does defending the process fail so spectacularly here? Why does throwing data at a frustrated, unheard client completely backfire? Because by defending counseling, you're subtly telling the client that their past lived experience is wrong. You are invalidating them in the very first minute of meeting them.
Instead, try this approach. Client says, "I've been to counseling before. It didn't help." Counselor gently replies, "It didn't do what you were hoping." Client, "It felt like people just telling me what to do." You see, you simply validate their past disappointment without taking it personally. You hear their deep frustration, and you simply reflect it back.
And then you lean right into their expertise on their own life. The counselor asks, what would make this feel different, if anything could? By asking this, you are inviting them to design the safety they need. You are showing them rather than just telling them that this time will actually be different.
The client responds, "If it felt like you actually cared what I thought." And the counselor says, "That's fair, and I do." And this is total proof that a simple, honest confirmation can instantly build a bridge of trust. You didn't need a study or a fancy statistic. You just needed to be a human being who was willing to listen to their apprehension.
Once again, the contrast is absolutely undeniable. Arguing for the value of counseling loses the client immediately. Validating their disappointment and honoring their skepticism completely wins their trust.
All right, bringing it all together. The one strategy for tomorrow, what to try in your very next session.
The one thing you absolutely must try is this. State their reluctance out loud before you ask a single assessment question. If they look mad, say they look mad. If they say they don't want to be there, agree that it wasn't their idea. Do not rush to fact-finding before you have established that you are willing to sit in the uncomfortable reality of the room with them.
So I leave you with this final thought. As you step into the room for your very next new client, knowing that trust is entirely built or broken in those opening seconds, how will you use those make or break first minutes? What will your first words be?